working with Jacob on a Saturday here. We decided we're gonna move that steering gear today, and we have picked its new home. It's gonna be right here. It's gonna be mounted vertically. We're gonna have to do something different with our steering bar, but we got a plan for that in place to keep our geometry like it belongs. So if you remember, this thing was a cab over, so that's why the steering box used to be way up there, and we had to swing it around and make some changes. But the pickup's cab will be right in here, and we have a plan now. So that's pretty cool. Next step, Jacob is gonna plasma cut our frame horns off right where the green tape is at, and we can take some of that ugliness off the front of this thing and hopefully keep it looking more rat rod and hot rod and cool instead of, you know, like, what the heck is that thing? So, yeah, and we're gonna clip this sway bar off underneath there too, because it really doesn't need to be there. So that's the plan. Let's throw some sparks. We're to the point now where we have permanently mounted our steering box, and we like the angle that it's at. It allows the cab to come all the way forward where we want it. We have marked our center of our steering shaft to make sure that the pitman arm is right where we want it in the center of its swing. We have made sure that our wheels are perfectly forward, just measured to the frame on both sides. And so now what we're getting ready to do is actually cut and rotate this drag link so that we get some of the same angles that we need. And we know that we need to shorten it up just a little bit because, again, this thing used to ride that direction up front when the gearbox was up front. So now it's close, but it hits the tires. So we're gonna have to actually rotate it about, 90 degrees or so, and then we need to 180 this piece back here so that our castle nut comes out for the taper. I know it's a little bit complicated. We're not using exact math, but we know we're gonna have to do some shortening and we're gonna have to do some rotating. So time to just cut, and we'll do some tack welds, do some practice steering, make sure everything lines up where we want it, and then we do the final burn welds. So yeah. Cut twice, measure once. No. How does that go? Measure twice, cut once. Bob Vila. Yeah. We've reached the point where we're getting ready to actually make the final welds here. And so I've marked top and up where I want everything to line up as far as my rotation for my drag link. And then I cut some old pieces of roll bar that I'm gonna, after that's finished welding, I'm going to slide that over, and then mission accomplished. That turned out exactly like we wanted. No touching, no rubbing. We get full lock and plenty of clearance. Yeah. What do you think, Jacob?
It's perfect.
Yeah, man. So that's where everything's going to live, and it's actually still a little bit warm, but plenty strong. We're happy, and we can cross that off the list and call it a day. We're cleaning the shop and taking our wives out on dates tonight. So, yeah, Good day in the shop. Well done, young man. All right. You know, a lot of hot rodding happens just by standing back and just looking at stuff and trying things. And, yeah, this is one of those, let's just try it. Let's put it up there and look at it just so we can pretend. Just like a couple of kids that want to just do weird things to be silly. Yeah, that's that's exactly what we want. Because hot rod. Yeah. That's about how high I want it to.
Yeah, that's perfect.
We decided we're going after the turbo, and Jacob just got done either removing or breaking any bolts or studs that were involved there. So
Mostly breaking.
the game plan is get this little tiny silly thing off. We're gonna make an adapter so that this monster will fit on there. Ethan here is gonna be making the adapter to be able to make that turbo work on that engine. And it's gonna be hilarious because hopefully it moves enough air to actually spin it a little bit, but it's not gonna actually like make any power, But so go ahead and rip that thing off.
All right.
And we'll see what's hiding behind. Yeah, perfect. There you got it.
Yep.
And so we're kind of discovering, all right, this is our oil drain back. This is our coolant that we're not going to be using anymore, because this turbo here does not use coolant running through it, just oil supply and oil drain. The stock original one had some coolant running to it, so we're going to plug that off. But now we can see how we're going to make our plate to be able to make our adapter and go to that style flange, and that's where Ethan comes in. So yeah, good progress there on that end. What I've been working on over here is, now that our steering box is moved back, I went to the store and I picked up some chain and some sprockets and things like that, and I'm basically trying to design something where I can weld a sprocket. Now this is just a test chain on there, so don't worry, that's not permanent, but I'm using that as a spacer for where I want my sprocket to be, and then we're going to run our chain inside underneath the cowl of the cab, and that way we can attach our steering shaft underneath inside. So yeah, little by little, but hey, that's how projects like this work, you know. There's only pieces of the puzzle, and you got to figure out where they go. This is going to be the end of the captured bearing on this side, and I'm going to attach it to slots on the bracket that I build inside the cab, and that's how the chain is going to stay tensioned that way. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't know, you know, it all makes sense in my mind. I decided to take a little bit of a break from working on steering components and linkage and things like that I had been, because I wanted to focus on turbo. And our goal for this weekend that we're actually in the middle of right now was to get this thing fired up and make sure that everything is connected and runs under its own power. So that's kind of why we switched our focus over to turbo. And I want to give a huge shout out to Ethan Cowell, because that young man not only is a trained welder, but he's also been doing some CNC machining for us. So he made some EGR block off plates. There's another one down here on the manifold, and the pièce de résistance that he made for us is this adapter right here. So he's taking the stock manifold from the Isuzu and made a plate top and bottom with this extension on it for us, so that it puts the turbo way out here in a cocky area, and I just think it looks awesome. So we're in the middle of working on our plumbing for the drain and the oil feed and things like that. It does start and run. It confirmed that everything is connected, works, is hooked up, and one of the issues that we were having is that this turbo itself is from the Cummins N14 that was in that Kenworth that I drove years ago when I was trucking full-time. And this thing has been friends for so long that they just don't want to come apart, and I'm having a hard time clocking this thing. So this will clock out here just fine, and of course our exhaust, you know, things like that. But I need these two to separate so we get the drain at the bottom and the oil feed at the top. And so we have a plan in place. It's not going to happen today. I need to wait for shipment to show up, but hopefully this week we get our parts that we're needing, and we'll finish hooking up the ductwork, and this thing will be a functioning, running turbo with an N14 on it on the stock Isuzu. So it's going to be awesome, and we confirmed this thing does spin, you know, like it makes whistly sounds. We didn't rev it up all that high today, but hey, what a blast. And sometimes you need things like that to happen in a project like this to stay motivated and stay focused. You know, when you start to kind of get bogged down and you think, oh man, we're never going to get through this. But to be able to just hook up our ignition switch, our powers, our grounds, plug the modules in, and it runs. So mission accomplished there. Ethan, I also want to give him a shout out to the work that he did on building us a battery tray. So back here you can see this is where our battery is going to ride. I'm going to make a hold down for it. It's actually going to get covered by our fuel tank once it's finished, but gives us plenty of room to keep our wiring and things like that kind of down and out of the way and hidden, and so everything looks like it belongs there. That's kind of the idea. So I wanted to share this with you guys. It's really cool. We found an old trailer boneyard, and I'm getting permission from the owner of this property to be able to go in here and get a fuel tank from an old Reefer trailer, and we're going to use that for the rat rod. It's going to be so awesome. I can't wait to show you guys some of these really, really cool old trailers. Come with me. Let's go. One of my favorite things about just being around old stuff with patina and moss and things like that is you get to see like old mud flaps and, you know, bumper stickers, and you can kind of see the age of the trailers just by looking at them. Like, you know, this one was inspected in 1980. That's just cool. 1979 is when this trailer was new, and I just love being around the history of some of this stuff. You know, some of these had the reefer units already taken off, some still have the batteries. I just geek out about old, you know, equipment and old stuff, and I don't know. These things worked really hard their whole life, and it's fun to be around the history of it and to be able to take a little piece of that with us and put it on a rat rod is awesome. So I'm gonna grab the torch, we're gonna goggle up for safety, and let's cut this fuel tank up. Here we go. Now don't worry, any of you that might be concerned about this thing is completely empty and diesel doesn't explode. Most of you probably already knew that, but what we're doing is okay. Nice. Woo! We got it. Mostly empty. Mission accomplished. Feels good. All right, let's get it to the truck. Yeah, I decided to siphon this thing out, and glad I did. That looks like coffee coming out of there. We wouldn't want to burn that. I don't know what year it's from, but pretty old. Probably has a lot of water in it too. I don't know. That'll make it easier to deal with this thing and move it around. We'll get some fresh diesel in here. I'd like to say that I used the Venturi effect to get the siphon going, but I didn't. I tried and tried. It didn't happen, so I just put my mouth in there and give it the old suck and spit. Now we're flowing. Awesome. So we can cross off make battery box and decide on fuel tank. Got that. We did shorten up our frame horns and we cut the sway bar off. Yeah. And we decided we're not going to pull these from the front suspension just yet. So we'll just kind of do a something like that, but feels good.
So as you can see, we're gonna have to flip it a little bit. So it's not quite where it's gonna be, but we're gonna have to build some bracing underneath. And yeah, spin the straps, make it line up still, but I think it's gonna work pretty well for what we're doing.
Yeah, I do too. I love that the fuel gauge is in the side. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite features. The float is inside still, and it should function perfectly. So we'll find out once we get everything in place. But yeah, the cap is brass. Like, it's perfect. The look of it, this is exactly what I had pictured.
Absolutely.
Not you, but yeah. Cool. All right, so we'll pull this thing off. Jacob's gonna concentrate on loosening up the straps, getting that thing spun and drained out the rest of the way. I'm gonna concentrate on building some bracing underneath. So now you can see we have it mocked up where we want it for height, and get our brackets where we want to, and what we're trying to do is eyeball it and say, all right, that should be centered over the axle this way, and you know, get everything kind of eyeballed and lined up where it's going to be. It's going to be super easy to plumb from the bottom for our feed line. Return line will be up here. We'll have to keep a vent, and you know, we'll get it cleaned up and looking better. But hey, it's got a story to tell, just like everything else on the truck. And we think that's pretty awesome that it's now part of the build, and that's pretty cool. So it doesn't really look like it hauled fuel necessarily, or that it came off the farm, but it also kind of has a little bit of that vibe to it, and I dig that. So who knows, maybe we'll pinstripe something there or put some lettering on. Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, pretty cool. All right, now I know where I can put my shock mounts, and I can start welding in our bracing, because we have all of our gaps right where we want them. This part is probably going to seem a little bit out of order why we would do this step now, but let me try and explain. When we're working on a big project like this, a lot of you guys probably have gone through the same kind of thing where everything's connected, and we're to the point now we need to permanently mount the cab, because I can't go any further with my steering until we get that brace in place. And we wanted to be able to do the Comet wash and get the surface of this thing prepped in the wash bay before we permanently attach the cab. And so everything's kind of like, this is connected to that, so that's why we're going to pull the cab off now, take it over to the wash bay, do the doors. We're actually going to take the fuel tank off, and we're going to Comet wash that too, and just get everything kind of, get the surface rust off, really get a chance to see what our paint looks like when it's like fully clean, and then we'll set the cab on for the final time. That's what our goal is this weekend. There. Once you can get it out in the sun, you can actually start to see what some of this looks like as it dries. I love it. It looks so good. And we were commenting on how you can really start to see that old red pinstripe pop through the white, because the white was added many years later, but the original color is maroon with a red pinstripe. So you're getting to see all the colors together. That's the original. The white was sprayed on top. So good. All right, well, while these pieces dry out here, I'm gonna be inside and I'm working on getting our bracing set up. That is so fun. We knew that we didn't necessarily have to put the doors on yet, put the fuel tank back in place and things like that. But in order to stay motivated on a project like this, sometimes you have to just stand back and look at it and see your vision kind of come together. And then you have to disassemble a little bit, do some more work, then reassemble it again. But this now is starting to show what we had in mind when we first were thinking through this project. And it's so fun to see doors on it. So yeah, we got some more fun things that are going to be happening with our turbo. We're going to now concentrate on the steering. We're going to be bracing up the cab. We're going to be building floors. There's a whole lot more work to be done. Not all of it's fun and sexy, you know, for making videos about, but at least this way you guys can see our progress as we go step by step. So hey, that's where we're going to end this particular episode, but I appreciate you guys coming along. Thank you for supporting the channel and for just digging what we do as father and sons doing our kind of projects. So, hey, you don't need us to beg you for helping the channel out. You guys know how to do that and you know what to do, and we appreciate each one of you. Thanks again. Peace and grease.